Hello, today we're going to talk about the big three for the MCU: Galactus, Doom, and Kang. So let's start with Galactus. Galactus, he is the destroyer of worlds or devourer of worlds. Basically, all he does is fly around the galaxy, find a planet to eat, and he eats it. Now, how did he get this power? He is from a different timeline a long time ago, and it was going through a collapse. And so basically, the Sixth Infinity met with Galactus and either merged with him, that's in some comics you can find it, or just gave him the power cosmic. There's been a lot of speculation on whether he'll show up or not in the MCU. Some people saying he will, some people saying it's too soon. I think he is likely going to show up in Loki. I made another video on that. It was really brief, but I think that's how this is going. We know the MCU is planning for 3 big villains: one in space, one time, and one earthly villain, essentially. So we'll have to see how that goes. I think this will be our space villain for then, and we'll have to see how that goes. But so far, I'm leaning towards Galactus showing up in Loki, and it's because we're heading towards Secret Wars, and not just Galactus, but the other two that I'm going to mention in this video all have very significant ties towards Secret Wars. And I think they're going to want to get them out of the way sooner than later. And I think Loki's going to be our first one. So why these three? Well, they're the big three, the Marvel big three. Everybody knows these 3 villains. We all know Kang, we all know Doom, we know Galactus. I think it's going to be the start of the Battle World villain team for Secret Wars. And I think we're going to see Doom try to take the powers from Galactus, obviously. That's another thing that would be insane in the MCU to see that transfer of power. But we'll get further into that later on in the video. For now, we're going to go ahead and skip ahead to Doom. This one I'm excited for. I want a good Doom for the MCU. We haven't seen one yet from those like Fantastic Four movies, but hopefully Kevin Feige blesses us with a good Doom. That being said, let's go into who Dr. Doom is. Victor Von Doom. He is the second smartest man on the planet and the second most powerful sorcerer on the planet behind Doctor Strange. He is the villain of villains. He's the only villain that I'm aware of. He could be another, but I'm not sure. To take down Galactus basically by himself and then steal his power. Not only did he steal Galactus's power at one point, but he also stole the Silver Surfers, and he also stole the Beyonders. And these are different comics throughout these are the early ones, by the way. But if he's able to steal the Beyonders' power, then that's kind of crazy. Basically, he would be as strong as Thanos, if not stronger than Thanos, with the Infinity Stones. I don't think he's going to show up anytime soon. Well, maybe probably a little bit before Quantumania if we're lucky. But seeing Doom without the Fantastic Four just wouldn't feel right, honestly. So I think we need a Fantastic Four before we get any more of Doom. That's not going to stop me, however, from saying he could possibly show up in Loki, just like any of these guys could possibly show up in Loki, or any other MCU project before what they're probably going to come out in. But yeah, he's got multiversal ties. He can time travel, essentially, with the Fantastic Four. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that Doom could do and sneak his way into the MCU a lot earlier than any of us expect. So we're going to have to keep our eyes out for that one. This next one, man, I've been writing the notes for all these, and I have almost a page of notes for just Kang. But like, let me. It's he's coming, and I think he's more likely than anybody else right now to show up in Loki. Yeah, I'm one that's saying, Galactus is gonna show up, blah blah blah. Well, I mean, that's just speculation. But if Kang doesn't show up in Loki, why did they even do Loki? Honestly, small rundown before we get into like the three major Kangs. Nathaniel Richards is insane. Year 3000, obviously, 40th century. He's a descendant of Reed Richards. In this timeline, they never went through the Dark Ages, so they're just super, super advanced. But this is one of the. He's a big one. But let's go ahead and let's hop into some of these other three now. He is a time travel villain, which is why he is presumably going to show up in Loki. But not only that, he has so many versions of himself that they have an actual council, the Council of Kangs. And there's three that I think that are just really important for who the character of Kang is. And yeah, let's get into that. Okay, so the first one is Iron Lad. I don't see this Kang coming true anytime soon. Um, I just don't. Iron Lad is essentially the youngest version of Kang, and he tries to prevent himself to not becoming Kang by accidentally forcing himself to become Kang. So, yeah, I don't know. Basically, he's an Iron Man, but he's a kid, and he's from the future, and there's a lot more to the story, but yeah, I don't see that one coming true anytime soon unless they do a Young Avengers pretty quickly, but I doubt that. The next one, though, is the Rama Tut Kang. That is his first alias. And with that comes a lot. Basically, he is a pharaoh in ancient Egypt, but he's from the future, so it's kind of weird already. But not only that, he has the first mutant as like his right hand man, Apocalypse. And that alone is terrifying because Apocalypse is one of the most powerful mutants, if not the most powerful mutant, aside from Jean Grey. But that's a big one. Not only that, it depends on how they do it, but in the earlier comics, he had the Ultra Diode, which was a weapon that could suppress the powers of any super being or mutant and basically make them do his bidding, which is how he became a pharaoh, essentially. He can revert them if he hits him with it twice, but I don't know. Kang seems wicked overpowered already, and this is only the second version we're going to get into. Now, our last Kang is the Immortus Kang. It's basically the end of the Nathaniel Richards timeline, and possibly the most powerful version of Kang, give or take. Um, he basically molds the minds of previous Kangs and makes them turn into this version of Kang, this variant. And of course, this Kang, or all Kangs, I should say, have a tie to Secret Wars. Um, yeah, it's the Beyonder again. He just decides, looking over the timeline one day, he wants to pluck Kang out and put him on Battle World and let him have at it with the rest of the villains. So it's another one for Team Villain. But yeah, so now we're gonna get in some more theories. So we know the plans. We know the MCU is gonna have three big bads, essentially. Like I said earlier, one space, one Earth, one time. Well, what we have here is one space, one Earth, one time. Kang, obviously, time, Galactus, space, and Doctor Doom on Earth, sorta. I'm sure, he can jump around the multiverse a little bit and play around with some stuff, but for the most part, he's going to be on Earth. But why that's important is all three of them have these ties to the Secret Wars and the ties to the Battle World and the Beyonder, which is going to be probably another video on its own because the Beyonder is a very complex thing. But yeah, I'm really thinking we're going to start seeing at least two of them very, very soon. Like I said in Loki, I think we're going to see Kang for sure in Loki. And I really am starting to think we're going to see a version of Galactus in Loki. Like I said in the other video, I don't think it's the main Galactus. I think it's going to be the female Loki timeline Galactus. But yeah, we're going to have to wait and see on that one. So, how does Kang pop into Loki? Well, I think he just does that. I think he just pops in. I think it's going to be part of the female Loki variant timeline thing. He's assisting her, quote unquote, with her issues to get her to do his bidding. So she's running around gathering these things either to destroy Galactus or so Mr. Kang can run around and start acting a fool through the timeline with some time bombs. I think it's the latter of the two. I think he is trying to get ways to clear himself out of the timeline. He realizes that there's too many Kangs and they are starting to cause issues. So he is going to start going to different timelines and just nuking them, essentially. And he's going to be the Supreme Kang. And I think even, obviously, if it's not with this whole Galactus theory of him trying to help her, quote unquote, I think he's going to be involved with the female Loki in either way. Like, they're going to be intertwined somehow. Whether it be that Loki trying to get the Asgard crown or what have you, they're going to be intertwined somehow. Now, that's kind of important because the Destroyer is at one point one of Galactus's heralds, just like the Silver Surfer and whatnot. So he could just be running around right now with no herald and either is in search of one or whatnot. And they come up with this deal, and he realizes how much he can fully control this one. So they come up with the deal, and Galactus leaves Earth for time being. And yeah, so we'll see. I think that would be a big part of it. I also think I could be totally wrong, and I have another theory of it. I think what also could be happening is when we're looking at that, we are in the prune, or the pruning, I should say. So like when they go to destroy the timeline, that's what the timeline turns into. So like maybe the female Loki gets a hold of enough of the little grenades to finally destroy the main branch timeline, and they're trying to figure out a way to revert it before it's too late. And that's just what the world looks like, which I think is probably more likely than my Galactus idea. But I like to hope that, some of this stuff happens, like Galactus, or at least Kang. If we don't get Kang, I'm gonna riot, and it's not gonna be good. We need Kang in a time travel show. So why do I think Galactus is coming? Well, as I put in the other video, there was some scene photos of Loki. Basically, he was in a field, and above him was like very purpley, cloudy area. That looked to be on Earth, and I am also assuming that's within the same scene and or episode that he sits next to the female Loki in the other screen capture I showed. I don't think that's Vormir, like some people thought with when Natasha was coming back. They're like, oh, it's Natasha. I don't think so. I think it is old Asgard or new Asgard, and they're gonna have to make a deal because they were tricked by Kang. In which case, female Loki is then gonna have to give up the destroyer armor and give it to Galactus, so Galactus will leave the planet. That just makes sense to me because, like, so the destroyer is basically Loki's favorite toy. Like, Loki loves the destroyer. He can just cause all kinds of mischief and chaos as much as he wants with that thing. And basically giving that up for the greater good to save what a Loki thinks they truly want, which is to be in power and in complete control of the realms. So I don't know. I don't think Loki would willingly want to destroy a timeline without there being somebody twisting their arm the opposite direction. But anyway, I think I'm going to call it for this video. I've kind of rambled a little bit. I'm probably going to do a part 2, more so on the theories, now that we've discussed basically who these people are and why I think they're coming for sure in the MCU because of their roles in Secret Wars. But yeah, I'm probably going to do a part 2. You can probably expect that Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll see. But yeah, I appreciate you guys for watching this far. If you like the theories, let me know. Let me know if there's other theories that you guys have been thinking about and whatnot. Yeah, thanks again.